So,
So, Imam, procrastination is not dealing with the present, isn't it?
exactly. It's usually the cause of it usually is fear because you are always trying to wait for the right time. And that right time never comes. The right time is the present, as simple as that. You know, you say, let me wait, I'll act when the right time comes. That's a problem. That's fear. Now,
Can you talk about how this sort of responding immediately, but then also patience? Those two things I feel like I get mixed up.
very good. I think last class we that's the most important word here. What is patience? We have to define what is patience. Probably knowing what patience is will sometime our our classical definition of patience is not what is meant by patience in the Quran. Patience, I think we discussed last class, is three things. Exactly as it is here. لا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا ولا تستكينوا. Don't fear, don't grieve, don't give up. That's what's called patience. Yes, it's nothing else. We'll see. Because if you have those two, you can't be patient anyway. So those are the things that negate your patience as well. So in order to be patient, you have to deal with these problems, then you are patient. If you have these, you can't be patient. As simple as that. Let's see what it says about that. I think last class we discussed in Surah Al Imran. We'll come back to Surah Yusuf in verse 146. وكأي من نبي قاتل معه ربيون كثير فما وهنوا لما أصابهم في سبيل الله وما ضعفوا وما استكانوا والله يحب الصابرين. Alam?
Many prophets have fought large bands of godly men alongside them, who, in the face of their sufferings for God's cause, did not lose heart or weaken or surrender. God loves those who are steadfast.
Shavia.
And how many a prophet who fought in the way of Allah? With him were many godly men, but they did not get faint at heart for what happened to them in the way of Allah, nor did they get weak, nor did they succumb, and Allah loves those who are patient.
Aisha.
How many a prophet has fought with many devout men alongside him. They did not lose heart despite all that they had to suffer in God's path. They neither weakened nor yielded. God loves the patient.
So you see, it's the same. So you defined patience as those who do not get faint at heart, who do not weaken, and who do not give up. So if you define patience by three things. Not to be feeble at heart, wahan, not to be weak because of fear, so fear causes weakness, grief causes feebleness. And when they are combined, you surrender, you give up. So when you are attacked by fear, you are attacked by grief, what do? Finally, you throw the towel. You say, I give up, I cannot do it anymore. Then you lost patience. You can't continue to struggle because your heart is so broken down. So these are the things that are the root cause of all the problems that we need to finish with this. When you have overcome these obstacles, then automatically you gain the quality of patience. You can be patient through anything. Once you have overcome fear and grief and submissiveness, if you haven't overcome them, then you are not among those who are patient at all. You cannot resist, you cannot struggle. So we'll come there as we go. So before we talk about the 7 quality, out of one of which is patience, these are the things that need to be dealt with before you even get there. These are the obstacles. That's why we say these are the obstacles that are on the way and prevent you from reaching. Assalamu alaikum. And prevent you from reaching to the end. These are the obstacles. So we said that grief, it causes your heart to lose sight. And fear, what does fear cause you? What does it do? Exactly. It makes you deaf. Your heart doesn't hear. Your heart doesn't hear. And you can see that one of the things that when a person is really frightened, that even if you are yelling at them, they don't hear. When fear overcomes them, they don't hear anything. So people are calling you to calm you down, you don't hear anything. You just move. Fear just keeps on causing you to run farther and farther away. So that's just in normal life. That's what happens. When someone is overcome with fear, it can't hear. So we'll come to the symptoms that are related to each one of these problems. So we see that in the story of Sayyidina Yaqub, that because of his continuous grief for the loss of his son, Yusuf, that made him lose his sight. And there's a serious warning from God for the rest of us. As I said that, but God protected his heart. Because he's a prophet, the hearts are protected.
So he was in the grief, but also in the...
Exactly. So in his heart, it did not touch his heart,
Yeah.
but it affected his body.
Nice.
So he lost his sight at one point. Yeah.
Like
Ayub, he did not lose his sight or his body also. Yeah, also got sick. It's also the same thing. We discussed that. You didn't come in last class. If you miss one class, it's very hard to catch up. If you miss one, because it's all like that, and I can go over everything. I discussed that when we discussed about sabr, that there are 2 kinds of weakness. Okay. So one is what's called wahan. I'll explain. Wahan. One other kind of weakness is called da'f. Wahan or da'f. This one is the kind of weakness that is caused by grief. Because grief weakens you. It kills your system, makes you weak. Du'af is almost kind of weak. It become weak also, but is caused by fear. So we have a different word for each in the Quran. So when you say wahan, you know what kind of weakness is talking about. Say du'af, what kind of weakness is talking about. So a weakness caused by grief is wahan, and usually that's is a weakness which does not it sort of prevents you from standing straight and firm. So when something is wobbly, it's not able to, it is crumbling from top down. That's what wahan is. Exactly. Du'af is the weakness that has to do with not being able to be grounded. So it goes here, lack of balance. It goes right, it goes left. It goes right, it goes left. So it's not balanced. Balance is here and there. It's not grounded, unbalanced. So this one is to be weak in terms of horizontally, and this one is kind of vertically. You're not stable at the vertical level. At the vertical level is called wahan. One is at the horizontal level, that weakness, you're not able to stay, but you move right and left, and right and left. That's du'af. If it is up and upside, you cannot sustain. That's why we said that the word huzn itself means heavy weight. But that's what grief does to you. Grief looks like a big weight on you. So it crushes you, it presses you down. That's what it exactly does to you. You feel that you are carrying a very heavy load. And that load is nothing but the accumulation of the past. It keeps on building on your heart and building on your heart. And every weight on your heart is a weight on your body. As the weight of the past builds on your heart and crushes your heart, it does the same thing to your body. So that's what's called wahan. You kind of, you are falling, you are crumbling under this heavy weight. That's weighing you down. That's what grief does to you. That's what we call wahan. On the other hand, it's kind of the opposite. Khawf is lack of stability, lack of weight also. If something has no weight, can be blown left and right because it has no stability, has no mass.
So indecisiveness would go in that category.
Yes. Yeah. So the way, all this is thoroughly analyzed in the Quran. It's amazing. The way it analyzes all our problems is beyond our imagination. So du'af and wahan. So when these two converge on you, the past is pressing you down. Fear of the future is making you unstable. So one after the day by day, what happens? You surrender. You just give up trying. You give up struggling anymore, and then you let the tide carry. Yeah. You give up on life. and you just die waiting for your death. Yes.
Suicide and stuff like that.
Yes,
coming from
exactly,
that.
all that. Either some people they decide to kill themselves. Some of them they just leave with no purpose. Just leave.
فأنا أقترح علي ماذا تقول عن
So, but we see that Sayyidina Yaqub, alayhi salam, that's the beauty of the surah. Despite that, he never lost hope and never stopped trying. That's why I'm saying that it didn't affect his heart. His patience it never wavered. He still says, go and look for Yusuf. Go and look for him. So he never stopped trying. So the grief did not affect his heart. Even though it affected his eyes, it did not affect his heart. They said to him, it's over. It's just long time ago. What are you talking about? He said, go and look for them. So he did not lose hope. Because as what it does to you, grief, it gives you sort of a despair. You lose hope and you give up. Yeah. So he never lost hope.
Now, would a good example of that for today be Nelson Mandela?
Yes. Yes.
The living example that's obviously he's passed away would be
Mhm.
Nelson Mandela, right?
Yeah. He never lose hope in his cause. Yeah. For his country. Yeah. He fought until he succeeded. Yeah.
تصبح علي ليش بالعكس؟
Now,
ليش بالعكس؟ خوف بعكس
the
الحزن.
Al-Aqs, actually Al-Huzn,
عكس
the opposite of grief, is Rida. Opposite of Khawf is or Iman. Yeah, that's good too. Talking about what is the opposite of fear. Opposite of fear is Khawf, Huzn, Rida.
What are they in English or
Huh?
what are they in English?
Opposite of fear is hope. Is here hope and faith. Let's put it that way. That's easy. Faith. We call Iman and Amr is the same thing. And opposite of grief is acceptance, taslim. In other words, to negate fear, you have to have Iman. And to negate grief, you have to practice taslim, acceptance. The reason why this grief is bothering you is because you're not accepting, you're not letting go. If you accept and let go, as though you never had grief in your life. It's all wiped out in a moment. And in terms of fear, as I said, faith means what? It means to think well of God, 1. 2, to trust God. 3, to know that if you don't know, God knows. Because because you don't know the future, the unknown, that's what causes you fear. But if you know that you don't know, but God knows, you trust in God's knowledge. It doesn't bother you anymore. So let's talk about a little bit about about the symptoms. I've just said that grief causes blindness. And what are those symptoms when the heart gets blind? What are the symptoms? So that what God said, every human being should analyze himself or herself. If you have a problem, you will know. Once you know what are the problems. It's one of those symptoms. One of them is to be slow and impassive. You don't want to act. You just want to be always. So the sluggishness, that's one symptom of grief. Makes you sluggish. Two, excessive eating. It's caused by grief. The point that he can't stop himself. Okay. Excessive consumption. Okay.
Imam, is that just food or it can be other addictions?
What are addictions? But it's just excessiveness. Just because you want to be the sort of you always want to distract yourself. So one of those main major distractions is eating. For some, could be drinking, other things. So, two of that.
Sometimes it comforts you.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're looking for comfort because of the pain that you're feeling from the past. You want to forget it, so you just keep on feeling that void. Yeah, it's bothering you. You have you have your thing? I think the paper on it. Okay. I think can you give me my bag? I think I might have, I don't have some points in my head. I'll be able to. Let me see. Where are the notes?
Sleep would be.
Huh? Okay, yeah. Excessive sleeping too, yes. Yes. Yeah. So, excessive sleeping, excessive eating, and excessive talking. Yeah.
Oh, talking too.
Yeah.
These are all signs of depression, which is, in a way, this is blindness of the heart, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what they call depression too. And so, in their medical terminologies. We have inactivity, which is sluggishness, inertia, excessive eating to distract from grief and distress. Okay, so that's some of the few.
في أكثر هيك أكثر حتى أول expansion هذا سيء في واحد أنا أقول أنا كمان حبيت.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe we might have the expansions, but this is just a few examples. But these are the major ones that are the symptoms.
والمشروب
Yeah.
أنت حبيت كمان مشروب.
مشروب كلها داخل في الإيتي consumption. نعم
I
شايفين؟
think violent temper or anger is also in that category. Like in people who have this grief, they have that anger.
Yeah, there are complex psychological situations, like to be what they call it's a medical term, they call to be hypochondriac. I mean, you love to be pitied.
That's the people of.
It's also it's also part of grief, yeah. So in that to get the sympathy and the pity from people, you feign to be sick all the time. So all these are symptoms of problems of the heart. But I mean, we can go into very fine detail. We don't need that. We can have all of that in the class. We'll have it maybe in writing, inshallah, when we come to that. So when we come to, on the other hand, the symptoms of fear and the resulting deafness. So it's the very opposite. People who have fear are people who are restless. They can't be still.
Worry, right?
Because they want to move. Or they're always moving. Constantly moving. That's what fear does to you. It doesn't let you rest. Doesn't rest you, be still.
It doesn't let you ground.
Exactly. It keeps on pushing you. Move. So you keep going. Feverish movement, hysterical. That's the word, hysterical. So you can't ground yourself. You're always like a feather that has no weight. Wherever the wind blows, it blows there. So that's how the person with fear also acts. So restlessness. Instability, insecurity, infirmity. And mistrust. You don't trust anybody. Extreme fear, because you're afraid of everybody. Even if they mean well, but you don't trust them. You can't trust anybody properly. Hence, you can't love anybody truly, because if you can trust anybody, you can love anybody. But love begins with trust. So naturally, if you can trust anyone, you will never love anybody. So now, mistrust and ill thinking. And usually the very opposite also. Lack of eating sufficiently. That's also, so we have in our, if you study our modern society, we have both extremes. People who deprive themselves of food for fear of gaining weight. Okay. So that fear also becomes sickness for you, because you are so obsessed with that fear that you deprive yourself of the blessings that God has provided you. As much as it's bad to excessively eat, it's bad to undereat, to undernourish. So with overnourishment and undernourishment are both bad, they're wrong. It's not good for your health. Either way. So you just have to find something in the present, which is in the middle, that is neither one nor the other. You eat moderately or sufficiently. So fear also, it does, and also it causes insomnia. Insomnia also is symptomatic of fear. I have a name for, I don't know, but there's a word for malnourishment. There's another word for it. People who fear eating.
Anorexia.
Exactly. Huh? Yes, that's what I was thinking about. Yeah. Bulimia. Yeah. So
But
that's also
But bulimia is excessive.
not excessiveness. It's the other way.
Anorexia.
You sure is
Anorexia. Where you don't eat.
okay.
Anorexia is the one.
Limiting
So this one is
eating
here
as well.
then.
Anorexia, I think, is the one deprived of
Yeah.
Yeah.
AN
Yeah. OX.
OX. Okay.
ERIA.
ERTRIA. Okay. Alright. So insomnia as well. Because fear can also prevent you from sleeping. And you all know that when you are very afraid, you can't sleep. For sure not. If you find yourself in the jungle surrounded by scary noises, will you sleep? You won't sleep. Because you don't know what's going on. The moment you close your eyes, you open it again. You don't know what's going on. So people in fear can't sleep. Even if you imagine that they have no reason to fear, but because it's internal, it's not external. Yeah, they're afraid all the time, fearful. So it affects the way they eat, the way they sleep, and the way they relate to others. So it's a big sickness as well. And it can cause mutism. That means you don't talk, as well as the other one. Talk too much. This one doesn't fear, turns it down. Say when you have to speak, speak. Don't let fear hold you back. Or don't speak when you don't have to speak either. So both is not right. Speak when you have to speak. Deliver the message and get done with it. So fear can inhibit you from speaking when you're supposed to, and grief can make you speak unnecessarily, just as a distraction. think we can end with that for now. Continue
Thank you, Imam.
from there, inshallah. Now,
So not really related to this, right? Even though I also have a question, but okay, maybe I'll ask my question about fear. You know, in that scripture you said, Prophet Yaqub, he stated this fear at the beginning of the
exactly, yes.
and it came true.
Yes.
So can parents do that to their children? Like they'll constantly express their fears and then it affects the children?
It does. That's what happens with the Yusuf. So at the very, that's where the story begins. The whole trial begins from that point. The moment in Yaqub said, it grieves me that you take him away. And I'm afraid that the wolf will eat him. That's what he said. That's right at the beginning of the story, and that's what the story unfolded through the story. So that grief and fear materialized to some degree. He was gone, and the brothers saw they played on that fear. So that's what he said. So that's why he said that if you have something that you're afraid of something, don't say it at least. Because once you say it, then Shaitan will play with it against you. If you keep it to yourself, then he will know. So it will not harm you. So hence the Prophet ﷺ said, if you dream a bad dream, if you have a dream, don't speak about it, then it won't harm you. But if you say it, then Shaitan will pick it up and play it again and again against you and causes you fear. No. So even if you have that kind of fear, but only then, only that once, you see, that happens. And as you said, Yaqub only said that once, and he never said it again anymore. He never talk about fear and grief ever after that. He only says, so if you have, so he tells us how to deal if you have fear or something that may causes you fear or causes you grief. He said, Ashku bathi wa husni Allah. I complain my fear or my grief to Allah. Don't say it. Just speak to God about it. And hence, that's the way we are talking about. That's going to lead you to taslim or lead you to iman, and the problem is solved. But the moment you propagate around you, then it becomes complicated. Yeah, and correcting it takes a longer time for that.
Imam, what did you say in Arabic again?
Ashku, in chapter Yusuf, Ashku bathi wa huzn. Bathi wa huzn. He said, I complain my situation. So that's why he said he kept it to himself, not to himself in the total sense of the word, but kept it between him and God. And God solved the problem, because he's going to solve it anyway. So if he can just begin by complaining to him, and there's nothing wrong with complaining to God. You can do it a million times, that's better for you. The more you complain to him, the better. So only complaining to God is good. Only to God, that's good. But any other complaint is not good, unless you want to seek true advice from somebody who can advise you. Then that's fine. That's part of complaining to God. So ashku bathi wa huzni ila Allah. I complain my fear and my grief to Allah. Alhamdulillah, Allah did remove them from him at the end and brought back Yusuf and his brother Binyamin. and he gained his sight back. Yeah. He gained his sight back. Yes.
What about expressing to you, or like spiritual teachers, what your
Well,
problems
yeah,
are?
no, that's fine. That's what I just said. If you express it to somebody who is seeking like spiritual advice,
Right.
it's fine.
So don't complain for the sake of complaining.
No, that's not good at all. That's gonna make the matters worse for you, not better. Yeah.
My second question was not related to today's class, but
Mhm.
Christmas times with lots of Christmas songs, and a lot of them praise Jesus in a very beautiful way. I really but
That's right.
I was just wondering if so there's this one word like king as like Muslims or people who are immersed in Quran. Do you ever describe prophets as kings? Like I've never really heard of us calling like prophets Muhammad Islam's king or Jesus. Like is that a word that I've only heard that word for God. So do we consider like the prophets as kings?
Well, I mean, we don't use those terms in the Quran. Quran doesn't use those terms. Except that they just use, it talks about Sayyidina Sulaiman wa atinahu mulkan azima. We gave him a mighty kingdom. But the reason why we don't attribute that to them is because you don't, once you say somebody is a prophet, is more than being a king. So we just say there's no point just calling them kings. It's like putting their rank down. So that's why we do not usually use those terms in relation to them. Yeah, that's the only reason.
There are weaknesses, Imam, and strengths that are attached with king, but they are not attached to a prophet.
For sure not. Yeah, but they are, of course, naturally. I think in one class here, I spoke about that. Naturally, every believer has a kingdom. Every believer has a kingdom in the imperishable world, in the akhirah, bigger than this world. So God called them kings and akhirah, even though they don't like that title sort of in this world. They don't want to be kings here. Usually, it's have to be king here and king there. So, but calling them king is not a profanation or a blasphemy. But it's not.
If people meet some prophets in real life, or if they meet them in a dream, do the prophets ever evoke like fear? Like are they majestic? Or it depends. So some people do fear.
Of course.
Depends on your state.
Of course. I mean, what we call kings in this world all had when they ever encounter prophets in their life, they feel little in front of them. If the prophets are in a humble state, but because they have the light of God that is in them, and it's a very powerful light. Anybody who comes into contact with you will feel the weight of your personality. Even though you're not a king, you don't have anything. But that's internal, that's intrinsic within you. Yeah. That's what I think one man, he came to the Prophet ﷺ, and he saw how he was with his companions. So when he went to, the Meccan sent him as a delegate. So when he came back, told the people of Mecca, he said, I have been with the emperor of Persia and I have been with Heraclius Caesar of Byzantine. I have been with different kings and rulers in the world. I have never seen a people who have that deep love and respect for their leader that Muhammad's companion had for him. And he doesn't exert any worldly power over them. He doesn't, they have no fear of him. He doesn't terrorize them with the sword like kings do. If you don't obey me, execute you. Doesn't have that kind of power. But this is something that is just a love that is from within their heart and a reverence for him. That's not from because of anything, any other power he has over them. It's because it's from God. Yeah. So the other kings and rulers, people love them, or they pretend to love them because they have some kind of power over them, either financial power or whatever authority they have, and people have fear of them. So they respect them because of fear of them, not because of true love from their heart. Yeah. بارك الله بارك الله إن شاء الله. نعم. الاستجابة قلتها.
السعودية تستجيب للطعام الذي زخي ولا يضرب عليك.
الاستجابة لله. لا للطعام. استجيب لك.